This video is for Module 6 for CTS 120, and we're just going to kind of breeze through this one because there's not a lot of lab activities for Module 6. Reason being, this module is on supporting I/O devices, and in years past, what we would do would be to have you guys install like an auxiliary card, like a sound card. We had a bunch of sound cards. Well, the new motherboards that we have don't support PCI, so we can't do that anymore. So that kind of limits us as to what we can do. I will try to find some PCIe cards that we can install, and we'll figure something out. Anyways, just wanted to go through this really quick, and so here we go. Basic principles. Now, I/O devices. These things can be internal to your computer. They can either be built in or they can be something that you added, like a PCIe card. Regardless, every device is going to be controlled by some kind of software. So you'll need driver software, for example, if you've installed a new piece of hardware. And typically the best way to get support is from the manufacturer, although like a lot of things that you need are going to be built into Windows. Like, for example, Realtek audio drivers. Typically they keep those updated on the Windows site, so you can just go from there. And always keep in mind that when you are installing new equipment and you need to install driver software, you're going to probably almost certainly have to use an administrative account. Because otherwise you won't have the privilege to be able to make changes to Windows. And try to only install one device at a time. I know this is a challenge when we're building computers and we're having to install all these different devices and then just cross our fingers and hope that they work. But if possible, try to just install one auxiliary device, and then make sure it works before you install another one. Otherwise, they could wind up with conflict or some kind of issue, and then you don't know what it is that's causing the problem. Okay, let's see. Connection standard, transmission standard. Table 6.1 in your book has got some different wired and wireless connections. Now, for wireless connections, if you've got access to a router that uses Wi-Fi 6, it might actually be faster than a wired connection. So, just because you've got a machine cabled to the wall doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be faster than a wireless device. All right, USB connectors. I am bad to daisy chain. Like right now I'm sitting at my desk and I've got all the USB hubs in my computer occupied. And then I've got two additional USB hubs. One has 4 ports and one has 7 ports. And I've used quite a few of those. The way the USB standard is set up, you can use as many as 127 USB devices daisy chained together. And USB devices are designed to be hot swappable. In other words, like if you've got a USB thumb drive, you can plug that thing in and unplug it without having to power down your system. And I'm going to take a look here at some different USB connectors. Now, USB is the original USB. It was, oh gosh, I can't remember. I think it was like supposed to be like 5 megabit per second or something like that. But as different USB standards, we started out with USB 1, then we went to USB 2, which if you look at a lot of our computers now, you're going to see they've got USB 2 connectors, and then they've also got USB 3 connectors. And USB 3 connectors, those things will give you, a considerably higher speed. And the new standard that's coming out is going to be USB 4, and that thing is supposed to give you 40 gigabit per second. Now, something to keep in mind, regardless of which of these USB standards you're using, you're never going to get, like USB 3.2 is supposed to be 10 gigabit per second. You're never going to get 10 gigabit per second actual throughput, but that's the theoretical maximum that it could support. Now, different video connectors that you're going to see. I'm going to show you guys a few of these, but most of the video cards now, they're going to support DP, DisplayPort connectors. Some use mini DisplayPort. A lot of video cards support HDMI because HDMI is such a popular standard, and a lot of people like to use a flat screen TV with an HDMI connector for their video monitor. So like on your desk, you could have like a 32 or 40-inch HDMI. Now, regardless of which of these connectors your video port is, you can always go online and you can buy adapters. So you'll notice that in the classroom, almost all of our monitors have got DVI connectors, but some of them have HDMI or DisplayPort to DVI adapters so that different computers can still plug into them. DVI is, it was a good standard in its day, but VGA has gone by the wayside. I mean, we still have a bunch of VGA machines over in one of our classrooms, but those are about to be decommissioned. Everything is going to be DisplayPort and HDMI going forward. Some different connectors you might see. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a very cool device. It's basically a USB-C connector that has high voltage, like 48 volts. So it can actually be used, not only can you plug in your laptop, use the USB-C for headphones or whatever, but if you have a USB-C charger, you can plug into that Thunderbolt port and you can charge your device. Now, eSATA ports, those have definitely gone by the wayside. I've got an eSATA port in the classroom that I can show you, but nobody uses those anymore because USB 3, if you've got USB 3 or better, then your speed is going to be higher than eSATA anyway. Lightning connector is something that Apple uses. It offers a lot of different connectivity, and it also offers high-speed charging of your devices. And RS-232s, you're probably not going to see too many of those in the future. Computers that are being produced now do not have RS-232 connectors. So if you've got an old legacy device like a plotter or a printer or something that uses an RS-232, then you're going to probably have to go out and buy a specialized adapter so that you can still use it. And they do exist. Okay, this is what an eSATA connector looks like. It has the same speed as regular SATA, but external SATA uses a different port so that they're not compatible. This thing has like a little plastic tab on each side here, and so this, even though it looks, when you look at it, it looks kind of like a USB or something, but it is not, and it is only compatible with eSATA ports. I've got a computer at home with an eSATA outboard drive, but here at the community college, I don't have any eSATA devices. Maybe I'll make one so I can show it to you guys. Okay, now when you're installing I/O devices, look at the manufacturer's instructions. Make sure the drivers are going to work with the operating system that you're using. So if you're using Windows, then you're probably good. But if you're using Ubuntu or Fedora, something like that, then you might have a problem finding drivers for different devices. Else, mouse and keyboard connections. I don't have any PS2 ports, PS2 devices to show you guys. A lot of new computers will still have a legacy PS2 port available, but hardly anybody uses them. All the manufacturers now are making their mice and hard drives, keyboards. Mice and keyboards have USB connectors. They're much more flexible, and every computer has lots of USB ports available, generally. Laptop keyboard replacement. okay, if you've got a laptop and the keyboard dies or it gets damaged, you can replace that thing. You can go online and order a keyboard. Make sure you get the keyboard that is compatible with whatever your laptop is. So if you've got an HP or a Compaq or a Lenovo, whatever, just double check and make sure that the keyboard is going to work with it, because not only does it have to physically fit, but also the ribbon cable has to be compatible. But turn off the laptop, and then you're going to have to take about 18 or 20 screws out of the bottom of the laptop, and then you're going to very, very carefully need to do something like this. This plastic blade here is called a spudger, and so what you're going to do is take this thing and kind of wedge it in between the upper and lower parts of the case, and then just pry them apart, because in addition to screws, this thing also has like little plastic snaps, and those things are very easy to break. Webcams. A lot of computers now have got webcams built in. My desktop computer here that I'm using does not have one built in, but I've got a USB webcam that's a Logitech, and I use it sometimes I use it sometimes if I'm having a video conference, because sometimes I take online classes and they like us to have Zoom conference calls, stuff like that. So if you've got a webcam that you're installing, install the software first and then plug in the webcam. Most of webcams come with a built-in microphone. You can use the microphone that's on your computer, or you can use like a standalone microphone like a lot of podcasters do. Digitizer tablets. These are devices that they enable you to write or draw and input your writing like into a paint like a paint program or something like that. Okay, your manager bought a new printer with a USB 3.0 port, and it came with a USB 3.0 cable. Your manager asked you if the printer will work if they connect it to the USB cable into a USB 2.0 port. Well, what is your answer? I'll give you a minute. We can tell them no, the printer can only be used in a 3.0 port. Yes, it will work, but at the USB 2.0 speed. Yes, it will work at the USB 3.0 speed. Yes, it will work at USB 1.1 speed. Well, okay, here's the deal. You're only going to be as fast as your slowest component. So we've got a USB 3.0 port, but when we plug a 2.0 device, if we plug a 3.0 device into a 2.0 port, then everything's going to get throttled back to 2.0. So the best answer here is B. It should work just fine, but it's just not going to be as fast as it would be if we had a 3.0 port. Now, here's the wacky thing. What you can do is you can go online and you can order a PCIe card that has USB 3.0 ports, and then you'll be in business. And only costs like $20, maybe not even that. So you can buy some adapter equipment that'll do what you need it to for not very much money. All right, adapter cards. Make sure before you buy an adapter card that it's going to actually fit into the machine that you're working with, because if you're like, say you're getting an adapter card that's PCIe X8 or X4, something like that, and so you go ahead and buy it, and then you open up your case and you realize that, oh darn, all I have is a PCIe X1 slot available. Well, an X4 card is not going to fit in an X1 slot. So that would have been the thing to figure out before you place the order. So just look in your machine and see which PCIe slots are available, and then you can order your devices accordingly. Okay, now when you're installing PCIe adapters, locate the slot you're going to use, remove the slot cover from the back, insert the card carefully, and then some cards, like X16 cards, a lot of times they have a latch in the front of the card, and then they also have a hold down screw in the back of the card. So make sure that that thing is snapped in correctly. Some PCIe cards need additional power, so make sure you've got power available in case you need it. Now, the only PCIe cards that are going to need external power or additional power are going to be video cards, and when you order the video card, it'll tell you like what it needs. It might need a single 8-pin or a 6-pin, or it might need an 8 and a 6, or it might need 2 8s. I've even got one video card in the lab that has 3 8-pin PCI inputs. So that thing is very power hungry. And if you do have a PCIe card that needs additional power, then from your power supply, find the PCIe power plug and plug that in. The PCIe power plug looks very similar to the CPU power plug, but it's not got the same pin configuration, so you can't interchange those. All right, now sound cards. Once upon a time, the only sound you were going to get out of your PC was just like the beep speaker. These things didn't have any kind of high fidelity sound. So companies like Creative and Realtek started coming out with sound cards so that you could have real, like real sound effects and real music. And this was good, for people that play games, or if they want to listen to the radio on their computer, then that is fabulous. I do it all the time. Now, sound cards are still available. If you go on Newegg or something, then you can find like high fidelity sound cards they cost anywhere from $50 to like $150. And these things are going to give you really good sound. They're going to give you optical, like an optical output, and they're going to have Dolby, like Dolby 7.1 or 7.2, really good sound. However, most of the new motherboards that are coming out have got built-in high fidelity sound that sounds really good, just about as good as what you're going to get from one of these sound cards. So I don't know, if you're setting up a computer that's going to be used to power a surround sound system, then you might invest in a sound card, but otherwise probably the onboard audio is going to be just what you need. Capture cards. Capture cards are kind of cool. So some people like to stream video from the television and capture it digitally on a computer. And so you can go online and you can buy video capture cards that will enable you to connect like a television signal to your computer and then record TV signals off the air to your computer so that you can play them back later. Now, there's also HDMI and DP capture cards that will enable you to capture things like, oh gosh, I had a student a couple semesters ago that was really big into Twitch streaming. And so he had a really nice video capture card that he would use to capture the output from his PlayStation onto his computer so that then he could edit it and upload it. And, he had people that would basically just watch him play games. Now, laptop cards. Most of the time, you're not going to have a whole lot of expansion capability with a laptop. Occasionally, they will have an expansion card like kind of like an M.2 expansion so that you can add devices. Like if you want to improve your Wi-Fi signal, maybe you could add a better Wi-Fi card. But typically on a laptop, you may have like one of these mini PCI card slots, but you may not. But your documentation will tell you if you have it or not. And right here what we've got is a mini PCIe card that is a Wi-Fi card. So you're going to plug this thing in and hopefully get a better Wi-Fi signal. Okay, now video cards. Video cards are very, very popular as an add-on because if you want to play games, then just using the onboard video that comes with your processor is most likely not going to be very satisfactory. NVIDIA and AMD and Intel, those are really your big three video card manufacturers. NVIDIA and AMD are constantly vying, to like see who has the all-out fastest card. You can get some cheap video cards that are 40 or 50 bucks, and those are going to be just fine for office automation. Like if you're just using Microsoft Word or Excel or something like that, then a cheap video card is going to be fine. But if you want to play like new games that are coming out, like the Elder Scrolls game and stuff like that, those are very demanding on the video circuitry. And so you're going to need a pretty powerful video card. Otherwise, you're only going to be rendering like a couple frames a second, and the game experience is going to be really bad. Now, when you're picking out a video card, make sure that it's going to be compatible with the customer's software and that it's going to provide them adequate performance. Otherwise, they're not going to be happy. So probably a good idea would be to, if you think you're going to need like an RX 580 video card, it might be a good idea to just go ahead and install like an RX 5700 or maybe a 6600, something like that. In other words, give it a little bit of overkill so that in case your customer upgrades their software later, they won't run into an issue. But like with anything else, you get what you pay for. You can get a video card that costs like $100 and it's probably going to be fine for most applications. But if your customer needs like really, really good video because they're going to be doing like a lot of video rendering, or they want to be able to make movies and edit movies at 4K resolution, then they're going to have to, you got to make them aware, look, the video card's going to cost $600 or $1,000 or whatever it is. And I can install it for you. I just want to make sure you're okay with spending this kind of money. Monitors, golly, like I was saying earlier, a lot of people just use a flat screen TV for their monitor. There's all kinds of monitors available now. You can get like a 17-inch monitor or 24-inch monitor, 27. Some monitors are curved. Some people like those kind of monitors. For me, just a 24 inches generally all I need. But almost everything now is going to be LCD flat panels, and these things are fairly cheap. I mean, you can get a brand new 24-inch monitor for like $89.95 or something like that. So once upon a time, monitors were kind of expensive, but they're not anymore. You might even be able to find used monitors. Like if you go to a computer store, they might have monitors that they've gotten from a customer that they'll sell you for like $25. Of course, you wouldn't want to sell your customer used equipment because they might not be too happy about that. And this just kind of shows how LCDs work, liquid crystal. You've got a light back here, like a bright light, and then a series of screens that light shines through. And what we do, there's line drivers, all the way around the display, and those things constantly update their respective rows of pixels, and they send an electrical signal to the pixel and tells it, okay, either turn on or off, so it's either working or it's not. And then the other thing they tell it is how much light to allow through, and whether they need to allow red light, green light, or blue light through. Hence RGB. And by using tiny little pixels and combinations of RGB lighting, these things can produce like 16 million different colors, or maybe even more sometimes, like 32 million. All right, monitor settings. Typically, you're going to set the monitor, it's going to be automatic in most cases, but if you need to, there's probably a menu on the monitor that you can access, and you can make it brighter or dimmer or increase the contrast, things like that. If you've got a monitor and it's flaking out and giving you problems, though, I would just go ahead and replace that thing, because monitors are not really reparable. They're these LCD screens. If anything happens, like if this LCD screen gets cracked, then it's done. There's no way to fix it. You just have to replace it. Okay, now troubleshooting peripheral devices. We're going to take a look at some things that might happen. The numlock key. You can go into your BIOS and you can tell the BIOS to activate numlock on system startup. And that's generally what people like because, well, I don't know about you guys, but I use my numeric keypad all the time. If people are having a problem, you know, like they say their keypad's not working, ask them if the numlock is on or off, you know, because they might have accidentally bumped it. If you go into Device Manager, this is in Control Panel, Device Manager, you can right-click on because you're going to be listed the devices that your computer can see, and it's going to be like monitor, video card, network card, all this stuff. If you've got a device that's giving you grief, then something you can try is updating the driver. You know, right-click on the device and then you know, see if you can uninstall and reinstall the driver software. Sometimes that works. Audio problems. I had a problem earlier today with the machine. I was plugging some speakers into it, and those speakers would not work. I was like, what the heck? So I went online, and because I couldn't find the documentation for that motherboard, I went online and looked it up, and it turns out that with this particular motherboard, there's a port on the back that says line out. Now, normally your line out port has to go to an amplifier because it is a very low-level signal and it's not appropriate for using with regular speakers. But according to the manufacturer's information, it said if you're using just like some regular speakers, then plug them into the line out connector and then select normal speakers when you're presented with a choice. So that's what I did. I plugged my speakers into the line out plug, and sure enough, it automatically sensed that there were speakers attached, and it presented me with a little window, and it said, what do you want to do with these speakers? You know, do you want line level output or speaker level output? And so I chose speaker output, and boom, I was back in business. So look at the documentation that came with your system. Make sure your speakers actually work. You know, plug the speakers into another computer, see if those work. Make sure that somebody hasn't like either turned the volume down or accidentally muted the volume. Check all your connectors, because sometimes these audio connectors, they're kind of thin wires and they can break or get otherwise damaged. Video, if you're having video issues, you might you know, turn the monitor off, turn it back on. Check the resolution on the monitor. Make sure that the monitor is set for automatic. Go into Windows settings and check and see what resolution your video card is outputting, because there are some cases where if you've got a new video card and it's trying to output a high resolution signal and you've got it plugged into an old monitor, well, those two may not be compatible. It might not work. So just make sure your monitor and your machine are going to be compatible with one another. With your video card, if your video card's not getting power like it needs to, then that can cause you an issue. It could be possible that your video card's not being detected by the BIOS. So power your system off, take the card out and reseat it. If your monitor's not coming on, okay, make sure it's plugged in. I've actually seen monitors that the plug fell out, and so of course the monitor wouldn't work because it didn't have any electricity. Another thing that can happen is because gravity is a thing, and most monitors, the the cable that comes from the computer, like the DVI cable or the HDMI cable, it's going to be hanging straight down from the back of the monitor. And so, over time, especially if people are like rocking that monitor back and forth to try to see it better, or they're raising it and lowering it, moving it around, that can cause some of those cables to work loose and then cause you to have an intermittent signal. But if all else fails, just grab another monitor. Grab another monitor cable, plug it in and see if that takes care of the problem. If you've got two monitors and they both don't work, then chances are the issue is the video card. But if you do have a problem with the monitor, you got the monitor lights on, but there's no image, just make sure your cable's plugged in correctly. Make sure you're using the right voltage. Check and see. There might be a conflict with the video card. See if you can go into the BIOS and check and make sure that it's set so that when you're using a discrete video card, the onboard video is disabled. That might be causing you a problem. Make sure that the dang contrast isn't messed up. If the contrast is at maximum or the brightness is at minimum, then all you're going to see is just like a blank screen. Okay, now some monitors are set for so that they power off automatically. And this is just to like save some electricity. It's called like being green compatible. So anyways, you can turn this off in power options on control panel. You can tell it, okay, go to sleep after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or you can tell it to go to sleep never, in which case that monitor just stays on. And in some cases, that might be what you want to do. If your display quality is bad, just make sure that your that your resolution is set correctly. Update your video drivers. If you've got like black pixels on the monitor that just won't work, or you've got lines on the monitor that you can't get rid of, then it could be that you need to swap out that monitor, because if you've got dead pixels, there's nothing anybody can do about it except to replace the screen. Now, external video. Sometimes we'll take a laptop out to a client site and we'll hook it up to an external monitor. And in that case, what you have to do is there's usually like a function F10 or something like that that's going to activate the external monitor feature. So that typically is what's going on if you've plugged in a laptop and your external video is not working. But the other thing is the monitor could not be connected correctly. Maybe we're using the wrong cable, or just using a like an old cable that's not very good. Now, if laptop video gets messed up, then chances are you're going to be breaking out your screwdriver and heading for your workshop. Because if your LCD is just not working, then you're probably going to have to swap that thing out. I'm sorry, but there's not a whole lot else you can do about that. Of course, before you go and swap out the screen, go through your basic troubleshooting. Make sure that you're like plug your laptop into the wall. Make sure you've got enough power. It could be your battery is about to die. Okay, now if you've got video that's just kind of like comes and goes, there's some things you can try. Go back and verify your display settings. Check your brightness. Check your contrast. Update the video drivers. Maybe try using a different port. Okay, so you plug a new scanner into a USB port on your Windows system. When you first turn on the scanner, what should you expect to see? A message is displayed by the scanner telling you to reboot your system. Windows Device Setup launches to install drivers. Your system automatically reboots. an error message from the USB controller is displayed. Well, I wouldn't expect that. Anytime you plug a new USB port in, or plug a new device into a USB port, then you should get a message that pops up asking you if you want to install a driver, or it could just be an informational message. Okay, like for, nope, I can't use that. Okay, here's a USB device. I'll just plug it in right here. Uh-oh, problem with this drive. Scan the drive now and fix it. Okay, well, we'll do that later. All right, but if you're installing a new device, then probably what you're going to see is Windows Device Setup launches automatically. That's what it's supposed to do. And then it might ask you, do you have the drivers? Do you have a disk or a thumb drive? Where can I find the drivers? Or it'll just go online and see if it can find them. Okay, your desktop computer has DVI and HDMI video ports. If a DVI monitor does not work on your system, but you know the monitor is good, what is the best solution? What is the best solution? Okay, buy a new HDMI monitor. Okay, well, that might work. Install a video card with a DVI port. Replace the motherboard. That seems a little excessive. Or use a DVI to HDMI adapter to use your current DVI monitor and cable. Okay, well, that sounds good. You plug a new scanner into a USB port. What do you expect to see? We just saw that one. Windows automatically launches a setup. Okay, you turn on your Windows computer and see post messages. Then the screen goes blank. Which of the following items could be the source of the issue? Well, the video card's working. Monitor's working. Windows. Okay, so we saw our BIOS, our post messages, but then, yep. All right, sounds like a problem with Microsoft Windows. You've just installed a new sound card. Windows says the card installed with no errors. When you plug the speakers in, you hear no sound. What's the first thing you should do? Open up the case. I don't know about that. Uninstall the sound card. I don't know about that. Use Device Manager to update the drivers. Okay, well, let's hold on to that one for a minute. Check Device Manager to see if the sound card is recognized and has no errors. Well, we already installed it with no errors. Reinstall Windows. Okay, that's a little bit extreme. Check the volume controls on the speakers. Good idea. Wonder if the volume controls are turned all the way down. Okay, so that would be the first thing to do. Check the speaker's volume controls, and also I would check and make sure that the audio plug is actually plugged in. You just installed a new DVD drive and its drivers on Windows. The drive will read a CD but not a DVD. Reinstall the device drivers. What is the first thing you should do? Open the Settings app and click the System group. Open Device Manager and choose Update Driver. Maybe. Remove the data cable. Don't know if we're going to need to go through all that. Open Device Manager and uninstall the drive. That probably is the best way to go. Let's open the Device Manager, uninstall the drive, and then reinstall it and see if that solves the issue. And if it doesn't, then maybe we got a bad DVD drive. I've actually seen blue, oh shoot, what do you call those things? Blu-ray. I've seen Blu-ray drives that all of a sudden would quit reading a Blu-ray disc, but they would still read a DVD disc, because Blu-ray and DVD use different lasers. So the Blu-ray laser was messed up, but the DVD laser, which is red, was still functional. So even though you couldn't play a Blu-ray disc in it, you could still read and write DVDs. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing that can happen. And if something like that does happen, then really the only thing you can do is swap out that device, because those Blu-ray players and DVD players, they are not field reparable. Okay, so that basically is all I wanted to say about Chapter 6. So you guys watch this boring video and then do the Module 6 stuff, and then whenever we reconvene on Monday, we'll start in with Module 7. All right, have a good day.